Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to day 2 of the Holistic Health and Weight Loss Docuseries. I am Pamela Pedrick. I'm the host and the creator of the Docuseries, and I help women who work in healthcare to go from burnt out, exhausted, unhealthy, overweight, and eating their feelings to rejuvenated, energized at their optimal healthy weight and no longer eating their feelings so that they can stop surviving and thrive. And today we have two of our featured speakers. We have Elizabeth Kipp and Dr. Laura DeCesaris, and we're going to be sharing with you who they are, who they serve, because potentially you haven't signed up for the docuseries just yet. By the way, there's still time. There's a link in the description to this video. And I gotta say, Elizabeth, I loved your presentation because at the end you gave some really great tips on how to manage our stress a lot better. So Elizabeth did talk about building resiliency, especially to help us with manage our stress better. And I gotta say, in today's day and age, I don't know of any woman who hasn't been under some type of stress as well. So you can introduce yourself and tell us who you serve and how did you come to be doing the work that you're currently doing?
Well, thanks so much, Pamela. And it's nice to see you, Laura. Yeah, I was actually a chronic pain sufferer for 40 years. And the doctors all said, well, you have to learn to live with it. I had a science background and I thought, well, I think they're just kind of telling me what's in their model. And I really had a sneaking suspicion that there was more going on. They just hadn't discovered it yet. And I finally found a doctor who understood the nature of chronic pain and how to heal it. It just took me a while. But I learned a lot about the nature of chronic pain and stress and how I react to it. And I met so many other 40 years, 31, lots of surgery, in and out of hospitals, in and out of doctors' offices, in and out of physical rehab, all kinds of that. I met so many other people that had difficulty with chronic pain and just stressed out. And I finally really learned the tools to clear the chronic pain and really widen my window of tolerance, much wider, build my resilience, build my capacity for resilience. And that's who I serve now, are people in recovery from chronic pain, people that are in chronic pain that are looking for like an answer. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a great coach in that space because I know it so well.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are a lot of people who are going through some chronic pain, that's for sure. And so, Dr. Laura, you talked about the whole perimenopause, 30s, 40s, and beyond when it comes to hormones and weight. I loved your presentation. I got some things for both of you, questions as well. So, if you can tell us who do you serve and how did you come to be in the work that you're presently doing?
Sure. So, yes, I'm Dr. Laura DeCesaris. I am a functional medicine doctor. I specialize in women's health, hormones, and metabolism. And I specifically serve busy, driven, high achieving women, entrepreneurs, business owners, women in healthcare, whatever that might look like. But basically, I am you. And when I was dealing with my own chronic health issues in my 20s and early 30s, I was diagnosed with both Hashimoto's and lupus, which are two autoimmune issues. The answers that I was getting to my questions were, oh, just don't stress out about things. Just slow down. Don't do as much. And about you, but that doesn't resonate for me. Like I have lots of big dreams and big goals that I want to chase, and I wanted somebody that met me where I was at. So I really decided to become that person for other women like me. And as someone who is now in my late 30s, I start to feel my body starting to shift and change just a little, but enough that I know the importance of, paying attention to what's happening. The things that I did to get back into health in my 20s are probably not the same things that I need to take care of me now. And most of the clients I see are women in their 40s, early 50s, kind of in this no man's land where things are a little different than when they were younger, but they haven't quite hit menopause yet. And I think that's really the perimenopause window that I'm trying to educate more women about and understand that it's not this slow decline towards, this end stage of life. It's just the new you. It's like you just have to shift gears a little bit and understand what you're working with now, make little changes in your lifestyle to better support that.
Yeah, I think a lot of women don't understand. They think they have to deal with everything all at once. I mean, I was that
Yes.
way myself, where let's make all these huge changes, but even little changes can really make way. And in your presentation, I was like, when you mentioned that, the adrenals start to take over producing some of the hormones that the ovaries are making, I was like, wow, no wonder adrenals are such a big issue for women of our age, 30s and 40s, where we're in adrenal kind of burnout if they're also taking over. So, can you explain a little bit more about what happens in that process, so we can have a better understanding of this and why it does impact women to such an extent?
Yeah, absolutely. So at all ages, the adrenal glands actually still play a small role in creating sex hormones, things like estrogen. I know we think about adrenals just a lot in relationship to cortisol, but they
Yeah.
actually have a lot of different roles. However, what I'm talking about in the presentation, what you just asked, is for women, when our ovaries start to decline in function a bit, we start to make a little bit less of those sex hormones as a natural process of aging, the adrenals kind of start to step up and kind of start producing more of the sex hormones. So now we have women, like you said, who are in their late 30s, they're in their late 40s, they're feeling all the stress, they're reaching higher levels in their career, they have kids who are growing up, like lots of different stressors in life. And then this poor little gland gets like another job on top of everything else. So it's why not just taking an adrenal supplement, but also looking at, okay, what are the stressors in my life? All my stressors, good stressors,
Mhm.
bad
Yeah.
stressors, and consider my stress bucket and how to just keep that from overflowing all the time. Like, how do I care for myself this way? And we kind of get into strategies similar to what Elizabeth mentioned. How do we build that resilience so that it's not a matter of hitting stress and hitting burnout, but improving our response to stress? How do we regulate that nervous system? How do we reduce stress through our nutrition, through, simple tools like looking at our blood sugar? I think it can feel overwhelming if you're not a health expert that all of these things are interconnected. But once you accept that everything is and your body works much more like a web than these separate parts and pieces, it becomes easier to say, okay, every little choice I make has a much bigger impact than I'm giving it credit for, right? The food I eat, it's not just energy, it's also driving hormone change, it's impacting my brain, it's affecting my sleep. So instead of, like you said, feeling that overwhelm of trying to change everything at once, when you understand that the smallest things can move the needle in the right direction, it becomes much less overwhelming. And when you cut out that overwhelm, you can start to take action.
Yeah, and with the protein too, when you're mentioning, I know a lot of women, especially women I work with, they're really low on their protein intake, and its impact on stabilizing blood sugar. Love that you mentioned continuous glucometer. I'm all about that. I love it because it's a really eye-catching when they see where their food is impacting their sugar as well as stress. And it's like a tool. It's a great tool that they can use. So I'm curious, what kind of tips do you have for your own patients as far as eat? I could call it sneaking the protein in, because sometimes you're like, I can't eat another chicken breast.
Right, and if you're eating, like, the same protein sources all the time, it gets a little boring, right? And I think I look at this 2 ways. The first is, if you're coming from a place where you don't even know how much protein you're eating, like, first track it and see where you're actually at. Most women think they're eating much more than they are, then they actually
Mhm.
put it in a tracking app, and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting 40 grams a day," which is not enough. Don't jump from 40 to 120.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to feel the best on your digestive system. Start bringing that up little by little. But there's lots of little ways you can add it in, right? If you're a morning beverage person, like a shake or a coffee, even, like, you can get a scoop of collagen, you can get a scoop of whey protein in there, blend it all up. It tastes delicious, right? You can work it into baked goods. Like, there's so many versatile ways to bring it in a in addition to the typical things we think of. Okay, what are some breakfast foods, some lunch foods, some dinner foods? But whatever you have to do to try and get, I like to aim for at least 30 grams of protein 3 times a day. For most women, that's going to hit the mark. Obviously, some of us are larger framed or we have a lot of
Mhm.
muscle, we may need more. But starting to work your way up to hitting that minimum threshold at your meals, and then you can kind of supplement with it, right? That's the point of protein powders and things like that. It's to help supplement what you're getting in through regular food, without overly taxing your digestive system or having to eat 3 chicken breasts every day, which sounds terrible to me. That would be very boring to eat.
That's how I am too. Another chicken breast. I mean, use it up, so to speak, is what I say.
Right.
Use up your recipe plan. And Elizabeth, if you didn't get a chance to watch their presentations, you have 48 hours. So you have 2 days in which to watch them. If you miss it within 48 hours, you can buy the VIP tickets where you have lifetime access to their presentations, and you can get their free gifts as well as their VIP gifts and offers as well. And Elizabeth, if you didn't watch the presentations, I gotta say, because I learned so much from all the speakers that I have on my platform. And I learned a different way of breath work, the nostril. Like I'd done it with one, but I didn't alternate.
Mhm.
I was like, that's steered by breathing. Can you explain to those who might not have watched your presentation just yet what that does with the nervous system when we do the alternating nostril breathing?
Yes, when we breathe in on the left side, that stimulates the cooling, calming side of the brain, and when we breathe in the right side, that's the energizing, warming side of the brain. And so we do alternate nostril breathing, and we're doing both, but we're also balancing. So we're balancing both hemispheres of the brain, and we're balancing the emotions. It's a great. There's a lot of different kinds of breath techniques. That one I love. It's very simple and it's very effective, and it's easy to learn. So
I was going it along. I always do everything.
it's a great. If something happens in your day and it's like, oh my God, what do I do now? Like, and you're just regulating.
Crap moments.
I've learned I don't make decisions well, and none of us make decisions well at that in that space. So sitting down and doing 3, 5, 7, 11 minutes of alternate nostril breathing, that resets the nervous system, balances those emotions, that big it calms that down, and then I can actually make a decision. Then I have access to my executive functioning. At that point, I'm not just in fight or flight.
Yeah, you're calm the nervous system down. Now, you mentioned about doing it how many minutes for 40 days?
Oh, 11 minutes for 40 days. Yeah, that will change your life.
40 days.
Yeah. Well, it's 30 days to break a habit minimum. I say it's more like 40 because you're breaking a habit and you're building a new one.
New one.
And it's very interesting. It helps to retrain the nervous system because the brain's not used to doing that. So you're bringing in a whole new way.
I was feeling a little tingly. I was like, oh, this is weird.
Oh, that's oxygen in the system.
I know. I was like,
woo. Yeah. So the good thing about doing a practice like that, it's not just rebuilding a new habit, it's helping kind of break up old habits that may not be serving. So it's got kind of a double whammy. So part of the problem that probably Dr. Laura and I both run into is the negative mind. It would be patients for her, clients for me, and you as well, Pamela, where there's kind of always I can't do that because, there's this resistance, right?
That's difficult. It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of a practice will help break that up. And so you have a little bit easier a job at shifting into a new habit, like, changing your diet, routine so that you've got more protein.
Yeah. Love it. So if you're watching the replay, feel free to write down your questions for the speakers. I'll get in contact with them and let them know that they have a question here. The live Q&As are going to be up until Sunday midnight, so you have time to catch up and to watch it. If you do have VIP access, you will have the Q&A sessions once the docuseries is over, uploaded into your membership portal. As well. So speaking of VIP and the gifts and such, Elizabeth, tell us what your free gift is for all the participants.
Oh, I've actually forgotten what it is. Do you have it listed there?
It was the 5. Is your master class training?
Oh, that was my free gift. You have five ways to relieve stress, anxiety, and fear, which is a real. It's an email. You get an email every day with an actual practice that you can use, and then you get some extras at the end. And the one I like the most is one of the bonuses at the end. There is re-scripting your inner critic. I had quite the inner critic, and I was like, I'm taking her to inner mean girl school, reform school, and so I wrote about that and developed that. And there's actually a technique that you can use to actually rewrite the script and really give your inner critic a makeover, so that inner critic is working with you and not, attacking, seeming like you're not having a war with this thing. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Because I often say, and in my own experience too, it's almost like I was in battle, often with the whole weight loss. I'm a former binge eater, so I often felt like I was in battle with my body. We were working not together, but complete opposites, until I started to dive more into the whole mindset, our thoughts, and the subconscious, more of the energetic kind of work, as well as the physical as well with that. So I love that. I love that portion of it. And Dr. Laura, what's your free gift?
Yeah, so my free gift is the 4 fat loss mistakes that you're making in perimenopause. And really, I've taken the 4 most common things that I hear from clients that they've been doing that aren't working, and kind of break it down as to why that's the case in perimenopause. So, especially if you're someone who feels like you're doing all of the things and they aren't working, that's going to explain to you exactly why.
Yeah. So if you or whichever device you're watching the presentations on, it could be below the presentation or to the side. Just hit the button that says grab your free gift for each of them, and it'll take you where you can grab that as well. And you do have some VIP offers for our participants too, as well. I've got my list here. So Laura, I don't have the VIP gifts listed on here. Do you remember what your VIP gift was? I can
Me?
grab it.
I do.
Yeah. What was your VIP gift?
I think I do, at least. I'm pretty sure it was a special pricing on my Fat Loss for Women course, which really is a female-centric approach to fat loss that considers our female hormones that are changing in perimenopause. It considers things like the nervous system, like the stress levels we talked about, and really walks you through what to do from a holistic foundation perspective versus just giving you a diet and exercise plan to follow. It's going to help you really just reconnect with your body on that fat loss journey.
Love it. And speaking, when you mentioned something about, like it's a spider web when we're looking, and our society, we're just so into this specialist. Like you've got a cardiologist, you got a neurologist. I was talking to someone the other day, and unless you're in functional medicine, no one ever looks at the complete picture and
Yeah,
says,
it's
okay,
like, it's
now that I
very,
put all the pieces together, this is what is
yeah,
going on.
most people have only had a very fragmented approach to their
Yeah,
healthcare, or one that everything is separated and nobody's talking to each other either, which is
exactly.
why so many people don't feel successful, especially with something like weight loss or it's one thing if it's disease management, but more lifestyle based things, the system just isn't created for that. So the beauty of functional medicine, of educating you about your body, is it connects all the dots for you and you kind of understand how things work together. And really, once you know that, it becomes much easier to make changes because you understand there's going to be an ROI from those changes.
Yes, definitely. And I know for me, because I just recently, probably about 18 months ago, histamine intolerance took me years to figure that
Mm.
out. It was functional medicine doctor coming together when I was researching my own. I'm like, oh my goodness, because I had the palpitations, I had the arrhythmias, I had the migraines, I had the, okay, CAT scan looks good. Oh, maybe your GERD's, messing up with your heart. Just increase your omeprazole. Like I was always to GI. Well, everything's okay. Well, maybe you need to just give you something for the constipation. Like all of that together, it was functional medicine when it was like, oh, histamine intolerance. I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense now with that. And so learned definitely a road of journey for healing, but I'm so glad I was able to finally figure out with my functional medicine provider what was going on. Definitely. And Elizabeth, your VIP gift.
Mine is entry into my course, Healing Here Now, Mindfulness and Trauma Recovery, which is a 12-part course. Each class is 60 to 90 minutes. Practical tools and understanding of different aspects of trauma. Also, towards the end now, we're doing a lot of integration and embodying. So it's a beautiful, very, very thorough, really, in terms of kind of a first basic understanding of what trauma recovery is about. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of women, because I work with women, a lot of them have trauma in their past, which does bodies in protector mode now to prevent from future hurts. So they can get stuck in that weight, especially if they're losing. I see it oftentimes when they lose a certain amount of weight and can't get past that quote unquote plateau. So we had that discussion about past trauma. And so I love that because it is so needed, when we're dealing with that, making those connections and healing from past trauma as well. So thank you so much for your generous gifts and VIP offers. If you don't have your VIP ticket, there's a link to the description of this video here, this Q&A, where you can grab the VIP ticket. You get lifetime access to all the content. You get access to their VIP gifts and offers, not only with Dr. Laura and Elizabeth, but the other speakers as well. Don't forget, if you have any questions, maybe you're potentially watching the replay, just post them down below in the comments, and I'll reach out to speakers for their answer, or if you're in the group, they can answer them as well. Any last words of encouragement or advice from either of you before we hop off?
Well, I like to say, I always like to kind of end with the greatest healer in your life is within.
Yes.
Like we're as doctors, coaches, nurses, any health practitioner, our job is to guide, give the patient the best possible information, and then they go home and apply it. So it's important that I'm looking here instead of outward, to like the answers are actually here, and everyone else is a guide to here, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Makes sense to me. Completely. Thank you so much.
I love that. Mine would be, at any part of your health journey, whether it's a weight loss journey or something else, let 2 words guide that. Those words are curiosity and intention, meaning sometimes we tend to go into autopilot, especially when things aren't working. But if we can instead approach those plateaus, those feelings of frustration with a curiosity of, okay, well, why isn't this working? What am I not giving to myself? What am I not paying attention to? What else type of support may I need?
Yeah.
And then you follow that with intention, meaning everything that we do, from a mindfulness practice in the morning to the foods you're eating to the way you're moving your body, have an intention, instead of, so many of us tend to rush through life and we get a little robotic. But remembering to have that intention, to be present, that's what really lets you reconnect to what's inside. And that's what's going to help, as Elizabeth said, make the best choice for you. But if you're not connected to that, it's really hard. It's really hard to ask for what you need when you don't even know yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Do so appreciate your time. To your health, we'll catch you tomorrow for the next live Q&A, which will be at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And tomorrow night, we do have the special Meet the Speakers live Zoom event. Some of the speakers will be on Zoom Live. You get a chance to ask your questions and get to know speakers a little bit more as well. See you next time.